Nope, doesn't look like it. All right, cool. So today, the topic I chose to talk about is ritual eating. This is kind of a funny one because I was talking to someone I know. I just know them as Cell. I don't want to butcher their full name. Anyway, and I was telling them about some weird eating quirk things that I do. For example, the example I always tend to actually no a better example. It just came to mind. Something that I think a lot more people can relate to is like M&Ms or Skittles, right? So M&Ms and Skittles, I feel like is something that like when I eat those, I always tend to eat same colors, or I'll like not necessarily separate them, but I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna eat the yellow ones first, and then I'm gonna eat the green ones, right? And I feel like that's something that a lot of people do. I feel like, oh, that's cool. That thing can detect. That's kind of neat. So I've got OVR Toolkit to help with streaming and for anything VR related. And I told it to announce the song that I'm listening to. And I'm using a program called Foobar. And Foobar is nice because you can choose the output method. So I can tell it that I want the audio to go to my headset, or I want the audio to go to a different source. Like I have this thing called line in, which allows me to redirect audio in case I wanted to like play some audio through my microphone or something. But it's kind of like a third party, program not a lot of people I feel like have heard about, and yet it actually announces the song that's being played. Anyway, getting distracted. Yeah, so that would be sort of an example of a ritual eating behavior, is having to sort or having to eat certain colors first. I never really would have thought that would have like a name for it. Reese's peanut butter cups was the other example I wanted to give. Like I like to eat a Reese's peanut butter cup by not just throwing it in my mouth and eating it, but like I'll like throw it in my mouth and kind of rotate it on my tongue and kind of nibble around the edges, and then eat that chocolate first, and then I kind of split the chocolate off the top and the bottom of the peanut butter, and then I eat that chocolate, and then I will sort of like suck on the peanut butter and finish the Reese's, right? And I had a coworker at a previous job who thought this was the weirdest thing that I eat this way. Why I don't do it with everything, but I do it with a lot of foods. And he thought it was so weird because I would like have a specific method or a specific way that I would eat all these different foods. And he would quiz me, how would you eat this? Or how would you eat this? Or how would you eat this? And I had an answer for almost all of them. And when I mentioned this to my friend Sal, she mentioned that I'm a ritual eater. She said she's the same way. And I'm like, oh, that's not something I'd heard of before. So I thought we could talk about that on today's podcast section of the stream. Unfortunately, there isn't a ton of information on this. So if today's podcast is a bit shorter than usual, I apologize. I was able to find lots of examples of ritual eating, but most of the search results when I was trying to sort of research this and sort of figure out the science behind it and how common is this, it was a lot of stuff about like rich or religious eating rituals and things of that nature, things like going to church and partaking of like the sacrament, or other sort of or even what was another one, like Thanksgiving, like a lot of sort of eating rituals related to Thanksgiving. All of these kinds of things are not exactly what I was looking for. I probably should have actually looked into that a little bit more. So I guess if we can't fill out a whole hour, maybe I'll do a simple Google search right now real quick and just kind of get some examples of some traditional eating rituals, and yeah, something like that. It could be something we could talk a little bit about, but yeah, so there's not a lot of easy to find information on ritual eating and different habits to how people eat, but there is still some pretty cool science behind it. It's definitely worth talking about. So yeah, so that's the gist of sort of like what ritual eating is. But specifically how you eat food isn't the only types of ritual eating. Like there are some weird habits some people will sort of develop before eating food, that they sort of have to do these things before they eat, otherwise they're not really eating it, which sounds like a very OCD kind of behavior, but that's not. It's surprising that it feels kind of like it's OCD, but I guess it's not actually related to being OCD. And on that sort of same note, another kind of related thing is, are these eating behaviors linked to eating disorders? And it turns out no. Eating, or not necessarily, sorry, it's not just a flat answer of no. Let's see, let me find this little post here. Eating rituals are deeply ingrained in our culture, but ritual eating behaviors can contribute to the severity of the eating disorder, right? So if you do have an eating disorder, having these sort of ritualistic eating behaviors can contribute or amplify or whatever, but they can also be kind of a good thing, because having a ritualistic eating behavior for how you eat certain foods actually enhances the flavor. This is scientifically proven that food tastes better if you do these things. And if you enjoy your food more, you tend to eat it longer and it's more satisfying. So you will also tend to eat a bit less. So if you're trying to lose weight or if you're trying to maintain your weight, having these sort of behaviors can help with that. Maybe not a lot, but they can, which is very interesting as well. But back to the science of it, like they have proven that these sort of ritualistic eating behaviors actually enhance the flavor of food. So some of the studies that they did to prove this, I want to say one was like the University of Minnesota and the other one was Harvard University. They did a study, I want to say it was with 54 people, somewhere around that number, and what they did is they split them in half, and they had half of the group try this eating behavior and the other half didn't. And what they had them do was eat chocolate bars. But the ritualistic eating behavior group, what they had to do was they would get the chocolate bar and they would split it in half. And then they would, what was it they did exactly? It was something, they would have to eat half of it first while doing this. Oh no, that was it. No, that was it. They just had to break it in half. Yeah. Okay. No, I remember now. Okay. So they got the chocolate bar and they were instructed that they have to break the chocolate bar in half while still in the wrapper first. And then they could unwrap that half, pull the chocolate bar out, eat that side of the chocolate bar. Then they could open the other half and then eat that side of the chocolate bar. And then the other group was just instructed to eat the chocolate bar whole, not break it in half, not eat it from either side, nothing like that. And the group that had to break it in half in the packaging first and then eat one half and then break the other side of the packaging and eat that half, they actually enjoyed the chocolate more, and they were willing to pay up to 25 cents more for that chocolate simply because of the way they ate the chocolate. There was nothing different about the chocolate itself. And then the other study that was done with a much larger group. I want to say it was like 105. No, it couldn't be 105, or maybe it was. It was very close to 100 people. And they split this group in half, just like the first, and they gave them all little bags of baby carrots. And they were instructed to knock twice on the counter, right? So they're sitting at like a table, knock twice at the table, grab the bag of baby carrots, set it in front of them. Knock twice again, and then take a deep breath, and then eat a baby carrot. Okay? So very, very like like weird unrelated way to eat food, like knocking on a counter and breathing and then eating a baby carrot, right? And then they did this, I don't know how many baby carrots they ate, but probably I would assume like the whole bag, because not all carrots have the exact same taste, right? Like the other group just ate the carrots, that's it. Okay, and the group that ate it using this ritual, same thing, like they enjoyed the carrots a lot more because of this weird, like how does knocking on a table and breathing enhance the flavor of a carrot? Like, what the heck? That's crazy. Yeah, the mind is a weird, funky thing to knock on a table, eat a carrot. Tasty, right? Like, weird that I what's even crazier too, well, I guess not crazier, but it's almost as if by doing this ritual you're setting your brain up, you're setting your body up in anticipation for the food. It's like, hey, I'm gonna eat a baby carrot, and your body's like, wait, he's knocking on a table, oh, he just took a big deep breath, here comes a baby carrot, let's go. Baby carrot, yeah, that's the stuff, right? Like I feel like that it's got to be something along those lines. It's got to be. Oh, and they also, well, I don't know, that doesn't make sense though. So they also proved that watching somebody else do the ritual and then eating the carrot doesn't enhance the flavor. Somebody else setting it up doesn't make it taste any better. This kind of goes back to like the whole like Thanksgiving thing, right? If you are home and you are watching somebody prepare the Thanksgiving feast, when you actually eat that food, it's just going to taste like that food, right? Like it doesn't enhance the flavor watching somebody else perform a ritual. It doesn't enhance the flavor watching somebody else make the food. However, if you make the food and then you eat the food, it's better. An example of this would be like lemonade, right? So if you, I don't know, get the mix, or you get the lemons, right, and you prepare and you mix and you make the lemonade, it tastes better than if somebody else makes the lemonade, right? Like, that's crazy. Another example of watching somebody else was wine. If you uncork wine and pour yourself a glass of wine, it tastes better than if somebody else pours you a glass of wine. I guess that's kind of an example of an eating behavior, would be the actual like uncorking, right? It's like every time you get wine, you have to uncork it, and that act is kind of like a ritual, right? To maybe that's why, oh, that's cool to think about. Maybe that's why people like wine. Well, not the only reason, but maybe wine is so good because when you get wine, you're doing this ritual which enhances the flavor, makes it that much better. Of course, then you've got the people who just drink it because of the alcohol. But if you're doing it as a ceremonial thing, I guess that's a really neat idea. Oh yeah, and let's see. Yeah, and then I found a whole thing and talked about how eating could help with weight loss or weight control. We talked about that a little bit already. I talked a little bit about some of the eating rituals I did, and I mentioned that like I had a coworker who used to kind of quiz me, and so I tried making a list of all of the foods that I eat that I have an eating ritual for. I'll kind of explain some of the weird eating rituals that I do, and I guess you guys can make fun of me for them. I got kind of flamed when I talked about last week's topic. I had a bunch of people attack me about that. I'll talk to you guys about that in a second, though. Okay, so I mentioned peanut butter cups, wings. So like, if you went to I know, a fancy restaurant, or I guess you could cook your own too. But if you were to cook some wings, chicken wings. I didn't like eating chicken wings for a long time, right? So And the large part of the reason that I don't like eating chicken wings is because it's so much work and you get so messy, right? And it's just, I don't. It's a whole thing that I'm like, it's not really worth all that effort to me just to have some chicken, right? But I watched a video that explained, I'm not gonna say the right way, but a really interesting way to eat wings. And I'm not talking about boneless wings. I'm talking about bone-in wings. So the wings have two bones that run through the wing, and on the ends of those bones, there's like some cartilage and some part that you don't really want to eat. It's just like, you know, that rubbery. Anyway, but and then all the meat is wrapped around the bone. So what you can do is you grab your wing, and on the end of where like that wing is, you can grab with your two fingers, and you can feel that like bit, that cartilage bit at the end, and you just kind of rip it off. Set it aside, go to the other side. There's a little bit on the other side too. You rip that off, right? And now on the ends of your wing, you can actually see the two bones. And so what you do is you grab one of those bones and you just twist, and that separates it from everything. And you just slide it out, and you do that with the other bone too. And now all you're left with is the good part, the part of the wing that you want to eat, right? You just throw the whole thing in your mouth and yum, 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 right? Like, holy crap. Like, I was like, that's crazy. Like, I would love to eat wings if that was how you could eat them. Because, like, doing all this work to try and eat around the bone and get all the meat out, I was always just so bad at that. And I felt like I was wasting so much food. And it was just like, I would just rather get boneless wings. Like, and I don't even really like wings. Well, I didn't used to like wings. Ever since I learned this, it's become, wings are so much better. So now I can't eat wings unless like I eat them this way. It also means that I don't like the drumsticks. I'm like, oh, wings, but the drumsticks that oftentimes come with the wings I don't like, because although technically you can do this method, you can kind of rip the cartilage off the left of or the sides of a drumstick and twist that bone out and then just eat the meat. It does work. It's not nearly as easy and not as satisfying. I guess if I practiced it, maybe I would still. Anyway, so now whenever I eat boneless wings, yeah, it's cartilage, twist, slide, boom, right? I can eat it so much faster. It's so much, and it's fun to tell people about too. So if you go out eating with people and you're doing this, right, it's just like, it's fun to teach people sort of like what I feel like is the right or correct way to eat a boneless wing. Other foods that I eat weird. I talked about like Skittles or just any kind of colored candy. Like I do the same thing with like gummy bears, because oftentimes gummy bears, like there's red and green and yellow different colored gummy bears, right? So oftentimes I'll grab, instead of just grabbing 4, 5, 6 gummy bears and throwing them in your mouth, I like to eat them one at a time, or just a couple at a time, or maybe 3 at a time if but by color, right? So oftentimes I'll grab like a handful, maybe set it on my counter next to me or my table, and I'll grab 2 or 3 yellow ones and throw them in my mouth, and grab 2 or 3 green, throw them in my mouth, right? Another thing I like to do is if I have a bunch there, I'll kind of separate them and be like, I'm gonna eat yellow first, and I don't have to eat all the yellow at first, but I'll only eat the yellow ones first. And I like to eat the one that has the least amount. So if I had a bunch on the table, and let's say there's 3 yellow, 5 green, and 15 red, I'll be like, I'm gonna eat yellow, green, and then red, right? Because if I eat the yellow first, there's less of them. Now there's only 2 colors left, and then I'll eat the green, and then there's only 1 color left, and it's the most of that color. I don't do that every time, but it's I don't know, a sort of fun thing I came up with that I like it, or enjoy doing, to eat sort of colored candies, I guess. Peanut M&Ms is one I also kind of eat in a very similar sort of method to like the Reese's peanut butter cups. They have the peanut inside, right? So I'll throw the peanut M&M in my mouth, and I'll kind of lightly bite down on it just to sort of crack the chocolate shell, and then I split that shell and I eat the chocolate and then eat the peanut last. Kind of like the peanut butter cup, I eat the chocolate first and then eat the peanut butter last. Ice cream is one of those that I don't like. Just if I was doing a bowl of ice cream, I don't like to just take a spoon and just scoop up a bunch of ice cream and just start chomping down on it. I like my ice cream to be kind of like, what's the word? A sorbet? I don't think that's the right word, but soft ice cream. So oftentimes I kind of chop my ice cream up in the bowl and kind of mix it around a little bit so it becomes a little softer. And that's how I like to eat, just like any normal kind of like ice cream. I have some exceptions to that, however, though. Blizzard. If you guys have ever had a Blizzard before, what's that? Is it Arby's that does the Blizzard? Dairy Queen. No, Dairy Queen. Dairy Queen does the Blizzard. They used to sell a Nerds Blizzard, which sounds weird, but one day I think it was actually on a date. I wanted to try it, right? And it became my favorite Blizzard. Okay, so it's like, I don't know, just vanilla ice cream with a bunch of nerds in it or whatever. And what I like to do is I take my spoon and I'll scoop up some of the ice cream. You put it in your mouth, and then I kind of like suck on it, and I suck all the ice cream away, and I eat all the ice cream first, and then I'm left with a bunch of nerds in my mouth, and then I just chomp down the nerds. And something about eating Nerds Blizzard that way is so satisfying that I didn't care about any other Blizzard. I would only eat the Nerds Blizzard. And then they stopped selling it, and I was like, what the heck, right? But one time I went in, the manager was like, oh, we can still make you a Nerds Blizzard, but you need to buy the nerds yourself because we don't carry them here anymore, and make sure that you bring us an unopened box because we don't want to be mixing used nerds or whatever in our machines. And I was like, okay, sure. So every now and again I'd crave a Nerds Blizzard. I would swing by the grocery store or convenience store, and I'd just buy a small box of nerds. I'd go in and be like, can you make me a Nerds Blizzard? They did this for me only like twice, and then they refused to do it for me anymore. They were just like, oh no, we can't do that. And I'm just like, I've done this before. They told me they can do this. What's the problem? And they were just like, oh, and it's just like, all right, fine, I'm not eating here anymore. I don't think I've been back since. I just loved that Nerds Blizzard that so much. Oreos is a fun one, or any kind of like sort of hard cookie with cream in the center. A lot of people, and I don't like to do this, I think this is kind of insane, but a lot of people will like split the cookie, eat the cream first, and then eat the cookie. The cookie to me is the worst part of an Oreo. I don't like hard cookies, with one exception. Dip them in milk, right? Hard cookies are great when you dip them in milk, but any kind of like I like, when I eat cookies, I really like soft cookies, but Oreos in milk, it's like nothing is better. Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that are better, but as far as cookies go, it's like that's like the best kind of cookie. But when you're trying to dip Oreos in milk, it's how do you evenly get the milk on the cookie, right? So you grab the end of the cookie and you're like dipping it in, right? And you don't want it to be soggy, but you don't want it to still be too hard and crispy, right? So you're trying to soak it just the right amount. But then you've got that bit that you're holding that doesn't get any milk on it, right? So you still got that crispy end bit. Well, someone taught me that, actually, I don't even think someone taught me. I think it was like a YouTube video or something, but someone showed the like optimal way to dip an Oreo in milk is to use a fork. So you've got your Oreo, you take the fork and you kind of stick it in between the cracker or the cookies into the cream, and then you just stick the whole thing in the milk, right? And so you just drop it into a cup, and then you've got this fork coming out that you give it like, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 seconds or whatever, and you pull it out, and then you just whole thing in your mouth, right? Now that's like the only way I can eat Oreos. I need a fork to eat my Oreos. Sounds weird eating Oreos with a fork. Burgers. This is actually something that I was talking with a coworker, and I told them about this test that I did, and it was like an autism test, and the test said that I'm a high functioning autistic, which I don't know what that meant, and it was just some online test, so I didn't think anything of it. But then years later, I was working with this guy, and he had taken a semester because of his degree and went over different things about like different mental disabilities and people that they might have to work with. And I told him about this test, and I was just curious about his opinion. And this isn't like a professional opinion, and it's not like he's like certified or some sort of medical professional, so all of this is with a grain of salt. But he said, yeah, I think that there is a possibility that test could be accurate, right? And he talked about how I make burgers, right? Because at the time I was working in a restaurant, and that was one of the things I did a lot, was make burgers. And he mentioned that every time I make a burger, I always make it the same way, every burger, right? Specifically, the order in which I do it was always the same. And I thought that this was pretty normal, but apparently it was only normal for me. Like, he didn't notice this with any of our other coworkers. But an example would be that I would always grab the patty first because it takes the longest to cook, right? So I grab the patty first, and it has like this wax paper on it so that you can smash it without it like getting stuck on all your utensils, right? So you put that on the griddle, and then you have a tool for smashing the patty, right? And it was always like I would always open the drawer, reach in and grab the patty, reach over, grab the tool to smash it, place the patty, smash it, peel the paper off, put the paper in the garbage, put the tool back, and then I would put a thing over the top of it so it can cook through quicker. And then I would grab the bun, and then I would grab the butter, and then I would spread the butter. And I want to point out that, like, I would always do this sort of methodically, but also, like, when I would put the butter on the flat top, it was always a very specific motion, that I would do. And then buns down, sort of spread the buns around and move them around a little bit, make sure that butter gets coated on them, right? And then I would go around and start grabbing the ingredients, right? So, I guess just just the basic ingredients might be like your lettuce, your pickle, your tomato. What else would go on the burgers? Well, I guess if you were just making like a cheeseburger, right? And I would set those on the table, right? So I've got my cutting boards, and I'd have my lettuce, pickle, tomato sitting there ready to go, and then I would move on to my next thing, right? But I guess a lot of people don't do this so methodically, right? And they're not so very specific about everything that they do. And I always thought this was normal because you're sort of taught the right way to make these things, and I would sort of modify the quote unquote right way to do this so that to what I felt like was the optimal way. And yeah, I always and the other thing too is I would try to keep my cool for as long as possible, but with scheduling and a lot of times you get scheduled, not enough employees, and the people on the other side of the counter are always like hounding you to get things done faster. We need this kind of a thing. And so sometimes I'd lose my cool, and it was like when I would lose my cool and it was just like, we need this stuff quick, and like they don't seem to understand that I can't keep up, like this is not happening. Sometimes I might lose my cool, and it was like that sort of autistic side of me, that methodical do this way. I kind of lost that, right? It was like all of a sudden I was like, fine, you know what, you need things fast, and I would just start just slapping stuff together and just passing it out like whatever. And like I'm like, this is a crappy burger, but I didn't care because all they care about is having it done quickly. And I always felt like I was doing such a horrible job, like just such a piss poor job. And I've rarely had any of those actually like come back, like which always kind of infuriated me more, is because like when I was just busting my butt and just throwing stuff together as fast as possible and literally making the crappiest burger I've ever made, and it would still not come back, and like apparently the customer enjoyed it, I was always like kind of annoyed that all that work that I put into trying to make good burgers seems to go unappreciated, and all they care about is time and doing things fast. And I guess that's probably where a lot of people like do things the way they do them, is because they just don't care. It's just about putting it together quickly, not putting it together well, I guess. I don't know. But because of this, I like now whenever I make burgers, like I have a very sort of like specific way that I like to make my burgers, right? And if I don't sort of follow that routine, I feel like I'm making a crappy burger and I don't enjoy it as much, right? Anyway, that's enough about burgers. Another food that I eat really sort of ritualistically is potatoes. So potatoes is a very common food in my state, and I didn't really mind potatoes when I was younger, but then I worked in potato fields and I kind of just don't like potatoes anymore, with one exception. I like baked potatoes, like just a baked potato, split it in half, throw some butter, sour cream, bacon bits, that kind of stuff on it. I like potatoes that way for whatever reason. Also, if you cook the potato well, like smother it in butter and salt and pepper, and then you put it on a baking tray and bake it like that. Oh, wrap it in like aluminum foil and then bake it. That skin will have a really nice taste to it. So you can so when you make that bake, oh, so good, right? But mashed potatoes and a lot of just potatoes, I'm not really the biggest fan of, right? However, that being said, you go to visit with family for a Thanksgiving dinner, there's always mashed potatoes and corn. And I noticed I picked up this habit from my mother, actually. She likes to mix her corn with her potatoes. She likes to mix a lot of foods, but I've noticed growing up that she always likes to mix corn and potatoes, like just canned corn or whatever the corn is anyway. And I tried it and I liked it a lot. It made the potatoes just so much more, I guess, enjoyable to eat when you and you still use gravy too. Like, and I do it so much so now that I actually got given a hard time by my own mother for mixing corn and potatoes because I wasn't mixing them the way that she liked. So she'll put potatoes and gravy on her plate and she'll have corn separate, and then she'll kind of scoop up some of the corn, scoop up some potatoes and gravy, and then eat it. And because I like corn with my potatoes now, if I go and they've got corn and potato, I just put the corn directly on potatoes. I'll put the potatoes on the plate and then use the ladle to kind of smash it so you can put some gravy on it, right? And then when I get to the corn, I literally just put the scoop of corn directly onto potatoes and gravy, right? Like, I don't see the point in using up another spot on the plate for the corn if I'm going to be mixing them together anyway. Might as well just throw them right on there to begin with. I don't know. I'm a psycho, a psychopath, I guess. Anyway, another food. This is actually a new one that I noticed that I do that was interesting. Almonds. So, what's that brand? They're Blue Diamond almonds, right? Like, you can get like the wasabi ones, and then they have like Smokehouse, and Smokehouse are really good. And I noticed that with those, I'll like throw them in my mouth, like throw like 3 or 4 or however many in my mouth. With the wasabi, you gotta be careful. You start putting like 4 or more, that'll clear your sinuses real quick. So good. Anyway, I'll toss them in my mouth and I'll kind of suck on them, and like I'll stick them in my cheek, almost like I'm eating sunflower seeds, right? And then I'll bring one over and I'll bite the sort of sharp tip side of the almond, and then I sort of like bite it in sections, like I don't know, 3 different sections, and I kind of eat the almond in increments as opposed to just chomp and eat an almond. I don't know how long I've been doing this for either. I feel like I've been doing this for quite some time with almonds and never really paid attention to it. It makes me this whole like looking at ritual eating and the different types of like things that people might do has kind of started making me think, what foods do I do this to and don't even realize. So this list of foods that I have come up with is larger already than I expected, and I don't think I've covered even a fraction of like the weird ways that I eat a lot of different foods. I just looked at the next one on the list. I think we'll save that one for last. Pizza is another one. Pizza is actually one that I have multiple different ways that I like to eat it, but they're all sort of very specific. Growing up, we always had, in school, in high school growing up, we always had a pizza line, right? And when I was young, it was like they would only serve pizza on Fridays, but then once I got to high school, they always had pizza, like every day. And they had ranch, and it was like dipping pizza in ranch was, for whatever reason, really good, especially with the type of pizza that they bought. And so whenever I get pizza, I always am kind of like, do I want ranch? And I always at least want a little bit of ranch to dip it in. And I learned a couple of different ways. If I have ranch or something to kind of like dip pizza, then I always tend to eat the pizza in, I guess, the logical way, which is from the point back, and then you're left with the crust. But if I've got something like ranch, I can dip that crust in ranch and eat the crust, and it's really good that way. But if I don't have ranch or something to eat it in, I prefer to eat the pizza backwards, right? I'll kind of like fold the pizza from the back and then eat the crust first and then make my way to the tip. Otherwise, I don't eat the crust because the crust is kind of the worst part of the pizza for me. So if I eat it back front, I can kind of bite into the crust and kind of try and bite into where the pizza is and get some cheese and pepperoni and stuff with it. Makes the crust a bit better. I could just order like thin crust pizza, or they have the stuffed crust pizza. Those are pretty good too. With those, I just kind of eat them. However, I don't really care. But yeah, that's sort of the ways and methods that I've found that I enjoy eating pizza. Okay, the last one I wrote down, which is going to be the one that probably triggers the most people, is cereal. Younger, I would just pour a full bowl of cereal and then pour the milk in the cereal. But eating this way, I learned that a lot of foods are a lot of cereals are good to eat this way. Like Chex, for example, this is a good way to eat Chex, right? You throw milk in, you throw cereal in. The Chex doesn't really displace too much of the milk, and you put a bunch of sugar on there and kind of mix a little and you eat the Chex. And it works okay that way. But I learned that not in America, a lot of my friends who live overseas, they like to eat cereal differently. The craziest way I heard is you pour milk in a bowl and then you microwave it and then you put the cereal in. And I'm like, why would you want warm milk? I'm like, I've never tried it. I should before I judge too harshly, I should probably try it. I don't know, maybe warm milk and cereal actually goes really well together. But I've always liked my cold milk, so I don't know if I'll actually go. I don't know, I might actually try it. It's not like it's that crazy, but the other sort of crazy part was the putting milk first, and it sort of sparked a big debate of milk first or cereal first, and both sides think that the other side is crazy, and I thought I'd try it. I've got a lot of friends who pour milk first before cereal, and I actually liked it. Now there are still some cereals I feel like are better if you do milk first, but overall I actually like doing milk first, right? So hear me out. So if I get my bowl and I pour some milk in, I can then bring the cereal with me to wherever I'm going to eat it. And what I'll do is I'll pour some cereal on there, and I don't have to go crazy. I'm not trying to fill the bowl. I'm just pouring some, like enough, not like enough to cover the bowl at least, right? And then I can use my spoon and kind of tap them around a little bit, make sure they're covered in some milk, and then start eating it. And I still have that sort of milky, crunchy cereal that's like just the right consistency. And when you eat that cereal, there's still milk left, so I can pour some more, and you can kind of work your way down and always have nice, consistent cereal. The Chex is one of those that I gave an example of that's actually good if you do milk first. It's good both ways, but it kind of depends how much I want to eat, right? Like if I'm really hungry and I'm going to scarf down a bowl of cereal, milk first, then Chex, fine. Or other way, I meant to say that other way. Cereal and then milk first, right? But if I am more eating just to eat and I'm not in a hurry and I don't have to be somewhere and I'm not starving or whatever, then it's still better to do milk first because I can pour some on. Because Chex will soak up and become real soggy, and I don't like soggy cereal. So that doesn't work. Or it doesn't work well doing the cereal first and then milk. Probably triggering a lot of people right now. Last week we talked about taboos, and I started out by talking about some of the taboos I do, which might have been a mistake talking about it first in retrospect, because I mentioned that I'm trying to do this podcast thing to a friend of mine and some other people that were around, and they wanted to know sort of like what I talk about. And I was like, well, last week I talked about different taboos and things related to taboos and like, I guess, societal taboos and whatever. And then I told them about the sort of big taboo that I don't think is a big deal, but apparently it is. But it's the taboo of peeing in the shower, and just bringing it up seemed to just completely trigger all of them, and they all thought I was crazy. They all were just like, "What? No, you don't do that." And I was like, "Why? What is the reasoning for it?" And like, "Well, it's gross." I'm like, "It's a shower. You're washing sweat and grime and all kinds of stuff off of your body already." And like, "Oh, well, you're gonna have to clean your shower because you're peeing in it." And I'm like, "Do you not clean your shower anyway?" Like, I mean, again, there's all these chemicals, like between shampoo and soap and whatever it is that you feel like using in the shower, plus all of the dirt, grime, sweat, and stuff that you're washing off your body anyway. I kind of feel like this is a null factor. I had another person tell me, "Oh, showers aren't designed for that." I'm like, it's a plastic or porcelain shower and a pipe. I'm confused how, like, what? I don't understand. And they were like, "Oh, it's not good for the pipes in the shower aren't designed the same as a toilet." Bull crap. I'm like, bull crap. That is true. That there's no way that you're trying to tell me that like urine somehow degrades the pipes, right? I had to this triggered me. I had to prove them wrong, so I googled it, and sure enough, it's totally harmless, right? And they were like, "Oh, but those results only apply if you're not sick." Are you trying to tell me that, like, if you get sick, somehow your urine turns into acid and dissolves the pipes? It's freaking crazy. Anyway, I'm bringing it up again this podcast, this stream, and probably gonna get flamed for it, or someone's gonna see it and call me crazy. I don't know. Whatever. It's a thing I do that I don't think is that big of a deal, but apparently it is. I pour my milk before I pour my cereal, and I urinate in the shower, and I'm absolutely gonna go to hell for that, I guess. Boy. All right, well, that's most of the stuff I had to talk about. I'm pretty sure I only filled out about 45 minutes today. There was a post that I found that oops, that's the wrong button. Let me pull this up here. There was a post I found that I didn't get a chance to read. Well, I say I didn't get a chance. I probably did have a chance. I just didn't actually make it a point to go through and read it. Do you have any food quirks? Food quirks, yeah. The Central Seas. Oh, interesting. Okay, this is an interesting quote. The difference between innocuous eating quirks and disordered behaviors lies in the mindset that those behaviors are carried out in. This is the part where I find out that what I'm doing isn't a ritual, just eating behavior, but it's actually like an eating disorder, and I didn't know this entire time. How do we tell the difference between harmless quirk and a symptom of something more dangerous? See, an individual with an eating quirk will often carry out that quirk with no particular feelings either way and remains mostly neutral. Am I neutral in my weird eating quirks? When I'm eating something, I realize I'm doing the eating quirks. Most of the time I don't. Like most foods, I don't pay that much attention to it. I just sort of have preferred ways of eating things. And could I put a Reese's peanut butter in my cup and in my mouth and just eat it without doing my technique? Yeah, absolutely. It's not that big of a deal, right? Like, but that's sort of the way I like to eat it. So I guess I would be neutral. If you're to tell them that they can't carry out that quirk, it may not bother them that much. Yeah, that's true. I don't have to eat these things these certain ways, right? Like the whole milk and cereal thing. Like if I put cereal first and then milk, would I still eat it? Yeah. Is it that big of a deal? I mean, I don't think so. I mean, it's become a thing that's blowing up. I guess blowing up isn't the right word, but it's something that is a debated topic on the internet that a lot of people are very passionate about, but I'm not one of those people who's that passionate about it, so no. Let's see. However, an individual with a disordered behavior may feel overwhelmingly negative, anxious, or distracted around that behavior, And if you were to take that behavior away from them, it may distress them greatly. Yeah, that's not me. So I don't have an eating disorder. Yay! I do my milk before my cereal, so someone's going to tell me I do have an eating disorder, and I probably deserve to be in a mental asylum, but that's okay. Okay, here we go. Examples of ritual eating behaviors. Here we go. Needing to eat foods in a specific order. Do I have any foods that I like to eat them in a specific order? I'm trying to think. Like if I had a plate of food or something on like a Thanksgiving, there's like potatoes and meat and salad. Do I need to eat them in a certain order? No, not really. I'm not a big meat eater. I'm not a vegetarian by any means, but I'm not like, oh yeah, give me a big steak and then all like the sides are just the sides. I kind of like the sides more, to be honest. So oftentimes I kind of have to not force myself to eat it, but like force myself to kind of like cut the meat up and eat it with the other things early on. Otherwise I eat everything else on the plate first and then I'm just stuck with the meat, and then I gotta kind of eat that by itself, and it's not as good by itself. But I don't think I have a particular order in which I was talking about the colored candies. I kind of like to focus on the the color with the least number of colors and then eat those first. So I guess that is kind of in an order. So I guess that would count as eating food in a specific order. Having to weigh or measure your food. I don't think I've ever weighed or measured like any of my food. I mean, when you're preparing the food, sure, but not as far as like I need to eat this food. Yeah, I don't think so. How do I say this word? Is that binging? Yeah, binging or purging at specific times or places. That's a ritual eating behavior? That sounds like someone who's, what's the word, bulimic? Deconstructing food items before eating them. Yeah. I deconstruct my Reese's peanut butter cups and my peanut M&Ms, and would that count for the Nerds Blizzard? Like to eat the ice cream first? Yeah, I guess that's kind of I don't deconstruct outside. I've heard some people will order a burger. This to me is crazy, but I've heard some people will order a burger. After the burger shows up at their plate or at their table, they will take the veggies out. They will like pull the burger apart and pick out the pickles and the lettuce and like everything, and then they put it back together, and all they eat is like the bun, the meat, and the cheese. And then I don't even know what to do with the rest of it. But I'm like, why even order the burger that way? Why even order a burger that has veggies at all? Right? Or just say, I want this burger with no pickles and lettuce, please. Like the whole deconstructing thing seems, I don't know, but maybe that's part of their ritual eating behavior, I guess. Feeling the need to stick within certain calorie limit and only eat particular times, or the inability to eat in certain places. You know, I feel like I've seen this a lot with people, right? But like you see a lot of videos where people are like talking about like diets and different ways to like eat food, and I feel like I see a lot of posts about sort of like calorie limits and this and that, and I always just thought it was people being overly but maybe all of that stems from a ritual eating behavior. I don't really look at calories. It's really bad actually, because I learned that a lot of drinks specifically have way more calories than you might expect, and I started looking at calories specifically for sodas and things that I drink. And there's this drink, it's a juice that comes in like a gallon jug that our family has drank quite a bit over the years, and it's a really good like drink. I can't remember the exact brand, but I saw that at the store and was like, oh, that sounds good, and I grabbed it and thought I should see how many calories in this, because this is just like a simple like fruit punch or something, right? And I look at it and it's got what I felt like was kind of a lot of calories in it. So I thought, well, let's look at the off-brand, like the store has like their off-brand version of that drink. I looked at that one and it was a fraction of the number of calories, like significantly less. And I was like, well, if this drink is any good, I should drink it. So I tried it, and it wasn't quite as like potent or strong a flavor as the one we normally get, but it was still quite good, right? And I was like, oh, I felt so much better about drinking that than buying the other one with how many calories I had. Oh man, some drinks, some sodas though, holy crap. Like you can tell by looking at the serving size. Like some sodas, like you'll look at them and like you'll have just a can and it says like a serving size of 2. It's like this little can is a serving size of 2. Good grief, right? And then some sodas that like you wouldn't expect actually have a lot less. It's really surprising. There's a huge array. It's not like, oh, soda in general is bad because they all have a serving size of 2. No, like sometimes you'll have some sodas that's like they have a shiz ton of calories, and then other sodas that you might expect to have a lot don't, and it's quite a bit less than you'd expect. Let's see. Another example would be checking behavior around portion sizes. Checking behavior around portion sizes. I don't quite understand what that means. I mean, I get like checking your portion sizes, but the way they phrase that seems kind of weird. Why do eating, this is an interesting thing I didn't look into before either, but why do not eating disorders, ritual eating behaviors, why do they happen? So given that eating disorders are largely interlocked with anxiety, do I have anxiety? I don't think so. I probably do. Actually, I probably do. Many people find ways to cope with stress. That makes sense. Because if you have stress, they've scientifically proven that these ritual eating behaviors make food taste better and more satisfying. So if you're stressed, having these eating behaviors would make you feel better, I guess. Wow, that's crazy. I never even thought about that. Anyway, instead of just reading this article, I think it's about time we wrap up. So that was ritual eating, or ritual eating behaviors, to be more specific. So anyone who is maybe checking out this video for the first time, what I've decided to do is I've been streaming once a week. I might as well dedicate an hour to trying to talk about something. So I've been kind of finding a topic, and then I'll spend the week kind of looking into that topic or researching that topic, and then I'll just spend the first hour of my streams just talking about that topic, and then it gives me something that I can upload to YouTube and potentially start making into podcast videos and start putting them on, like, say, Spotify or iTunes or wherever. And today we talked about ritual eating behaviors, and if you guys would like to tune in and maybe check out or talk about these things with me live, the first hour of all my streams, which is every Saturday, noon my time, you can just come on to Twitch. My YouTube and my Twitch is Cup with K, and yeah, that's it for this segment. So now I'm just gonna go see what I can get up to. Maybe go find some people to talk to about their eating behaviors. Anyway, bye guys, I love you.